This is the second video in our Winter Project 2025 series. In the first video, we built an arcade, a full-size arcade machine with space for 2 players to play at the same time. And if you missed that video, it's because you're not subscribed to the channel. So check your subscription and hit the bell, because this is the second video. The series will have 3 videos, and you won't want to miss the third one. In this video, I am excited to put my Creality K2 Pro 3D printer back to work once again, so that we can create an exciting new project together, allowing us to have even more fun this winter with our unique 3D printed projects. And at the same time, you can simply hit play and enjoy having fun with a variety of retro games, using the Raspberry Pi and the RetroPie, which is an open source project. I've already talked about it in the arcade video, link is in the description. So you can check it out and get to know this amazing project that lets us relive those classic old games. From the Super Nintendo, Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and a bunch of other consoles that made our childhood and teenage years. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I always wanted to have a Super Nintendo, but it was really expensive. And back then, the best I could get was a Dynavision, which was a Brazilian version. Kind of a knockoff of the 8-bit Nintendo. But I really wanted to have a Super Nintendo, so I thought, now that I'm an adult, I guess I can buy one, right? Have you seen the price of an original Super Nintendo console these days? Man, it's become a collector's item, going for over hundreds of dollars, and it's a real hassle to find a console that's actually in good condition. For you to be able to buy one and actually use it, plus get the cartridges, it's just way too hard. So I decided to make my own unique and custom Super Nintendo case, specifically so I could conveniently put my compact and portable Raspberry Pi inside it and then take it with me on my trips. So in this video, I'm going to show you some cases I found online, ones I tested but didn't really like, and the case I ended up designing from scratch, which, of course, I'll make available for you guys. So stay tuned and let's invent. Well, this time, I started by looking for some ready-made models, as usual, to see if there was already something I could use, because I wanted a case for my Raspberry so I could relive the nostalgia of a case that looked like the Super Nintendo. And at the same time, was practical, in other words, that I could put my Raspberry Pi in and store my games inside. The first model I found. Of course, we always look for the smallest one that uses less filament and all that, and it was this one right here, which is literally a case the exact size of the Raspberry Pi, with the look and design of the classic Super Nintendo. But basically, it's just a case that is exactly the same size as the Raspberry Pi itself. Nothing more, nothing less. Besides the assembly problem, since it has some weird and slightly unusual fittings and screws that are kind of out of proportion, there's also the issue that it's so tight that you can't properly cool the Raspberry Pi inside here. It can't circulate air inside to keep it at the right operating temperature. Not to mention, it's only compatible with the Raspberry Pi 3 and earlier. In other words, the one that has the regular HDMI output here. And the regular HDMI cable is thick and heavy. Basically, in certain situations, the case ends up being suspended by the HDMI cable. So, it's not practical at all. I didn't like it. Even though I printed it and even tested it, it just didn't work out. Next, I started looking for a bigger case, just to see if it would better meet my needs and also satisfy my particular pickiness about the model and its features. After searching for a while, I eventually found this little guy here. Let me just hold it up for you so you can see it more clearly. What's the problem with this little guy? It's definitely bigger, sure, but the designer made the holes so incredibly tiny that, seriously, so unbelievably tiny. It's honestly much easier for me to try using a thin wire to carefully go through this small hole than to actually find a screw that fits perfectly in this tiny hole here, which, just look at this. It's about 1 millimeter or even less. I even made some cutouts here for the controller cable, since it doesn't even have that finishing touch, and they actually turned out pretty nice, with the Inventor's logo and everything, as you can see, and you might notice that detail. But in practice, it just doesn't work. It has this little cover here for the eject button in the front, but it doesn't support the lid anywhere. It's solid, and once again, the whole issue with the holes and screws. There's no way to properly secure the lid here. Since I couldn't find anything online, I started designing my own console. And since I don't have a Super Nintendo console on hand to take measurements, I turned to the internet. I searched through forums, tried to find information, people who were discussing measurements and proportions. I even turned to ChatGPT, but it didn't help at all. At most, it gave me some pretty superficial and inaccurate ideas about the console's measurements, but in the end, the people in the forums were way more helpful in sharing information, so I could do the drawing with precise dimensions. I made a prototype and improved it. I made another prototype, improved it, then made a third prototype, until I got to the model where I thought the proportions and the look were right. It looked really good, so then I started carefully digging into it to make the necessary room, to fit my Raspberry Pi in there and actually make it fully functional. With this challenge, of course, it's not just about the look of the console, but it has to work. It has to fit a Raspberry Pi inside in a way that allows air to circulate and cool it naturally, ensuring that the device remains at a safe operating temperature. Of course, if you want to add a fan and overlock your Raspberry Pi for increased performance, that's entirely up to you. But the case already has an air vent to help push the hot air out, making it much easier to cool the Raspberry Pi effectively and efficiently. Take a look and please tell me what you think of this classic Super Nintendo gaming system case. If you have any thoughts, let me know. Huh? A little cartridge? Of course, it's fake. The buttons here, they're movable, okay? I made them movable, so that, in case you want to expand the project and add a little switch underneath, you can integrate it with the AU ports. From the Raspberry, to make it reset, turn on and off, you'll be able to expand the project there, okay? But the only thing I set up here was making the button movable, alright? The internal fittings, what kind of switch you're going to use, that's up to you, but you have the freedom to design and adapt it to this project. Just like the eject button, which it also has a small and coiled spring mechanism inside, and you can also use it to add some extra functionality at the bottom of the device and use it as a button. Eject, for example, and send a command for the Raspberry to return to the main menu of RetroPie so you can choose another game. In the front, I put the two ports here for the controllers, which are USB and are connected directly inside the Raspberry Pi. Just like I'm showing on the screen, so you can understand the wiring, which is super simple. There's a huge amount of space left inside here in case you want to add something else. For example, add some LEDs, add another feature, or even a Pro cooling system for your Raspberry Pi for overlocking. Aesthetically, the project is following the same design lines as the Super Nintendo console, with the same proportions, except by the flatness here at the back. Why did I make it flat? Because when it comes to printing, we have a challenge with this kind of design. On the top, the Super Nintendo has this rounded part here, see? But on the front, it also has this part, which is also rounded. So, printing it like this on your heated bed will make this top part here ends up with layer lines. And if you print it standing up, this part here will also end up with layer lines. The solution is to use a little technique, one that a lot of people already use, but many people also don't know about, which is to print the piece at a 45-degree angle. That way, the print lines will be at a 45-degree angle in relation to the piece, and the layer lines will only show up on these very tips. Here, you can barely even see it in the printed part. But if you don't want to print it at a 45-degree angle, or if you don't like that pre-mounted support I included inside the project, you can just cut that support off right in the slicer and print the console standing up. On the inside, I've already added some carefully designed, sloped support areas, mainly for the screw mounts, to let you print those specific spots without needing support material there. But unfortunately, it will need support on the top part, that flat area that faces upward. But it's up to you. At a 45-degree angle, significantly reduces the amount of supports required and minimize the appearance of layer lines on the outside of the console, and you'll also save a noticeable amount of filament and, of course, get the opportunity to try out this technique that, in practice, works really well for a variety of different parts. When assembling it, I really took my time because I want this case, to last a long time, both in my hands and in yours. So, I made it with inserts to make it easier for you to take it apart and put it back together. So, you have these M3 screws right here on the bottom, and you also have 4 small M2 screws for securing the Raspberry Pi inside the case. This helps to make sure everything stays in place and is properly assembled. And it also makes things easier if you need your Raspberry for some other temporary project or want to swap it out. You just unscrew it, take it out, put in another board, or put this one back, but always with the screws and inserts in place. Guys, inserts really aren't a big deal, okay? They're actually incredibly simple and straightforward to use, and they come in these kits. Here. Look, with a bunch of different sizes that you can buy for a very low price. I'll leave the link here in the description so you can find it there. There's even a kit that I'm actually using myself in practice that comes with a soldering iron and the tips for you to use in your projects. To insert the inserts, and this iron has temperature control right on the handle with a little digital display. It's really practical, super handy, really easy for you to use, and it's a super cheap kit to get. And you'll already have some spare inserts for future projects that we're going to bring here in the garage. Because, you know, to really keep the projects up to standard, I'm going to start using inserts in all of them. So come with me, follow along, buy the little kit, get yourself a soldering iron. That way you can install the inserts and have well-made, well-assembled projects that will last a long time in your hands. I did a test here, printing using Fuzi Skin, and I'm going to include it in the project as well. There will be one build plate with Fuzi Skin ready to print, with all needed configurations and optimizations, and another build plate with smooth walls. The only part that will always have Fuzi Skin is the cartridge, because the cartridge must have this matte look. But even the console, made without Fuzi Skin, using that filament, looks amazing. You really don't need fuzzy skin in order to provide it with a professional appearance. Regarding the standard Super Nintendo controllers, I'll leave the link here in the description for you to find them too. There are some kits over there, which are the ones that already come with both controllers, the Raspberry Pi, and the power supply, the original Raspberry power supply. That way, there's no mistake, there's no way you can buy the wrong one, waste money for nothing. Using the Raspberry Pi with the wrong power supply, you can get an undervoltage warning on the screen while you're playing. So pay attention to this. Here, on the back of the device, where we'll connect all of the necessary peripherals, I made a small mirror plate to be exchangeable for each version of Raspberry Pi board, meaning you can print a version for Raspberry Pi 2 or 3, or you can print the version for the Raspberry Pi 4. You can use whichever Raspberry Pi model you personally prefer without needing to print the entire case all over again. So you can build your own Super Nintendo case for Raspberry Pi and fund the creation of new projects like this one, and others as well that we're bringing to you. Please leave a comment below if you want to see another theme on this Super Nintendo case. Mario, Zelda, or maybe even a theme that's not from Nintendo, like Sonic, for example. What theme would you like to see on this console here? If we receive a significant number of comments here, especially those with a variety of thoughtful suggestions, I might add up the most popular ones, and we could include them in some special editions. And of course, if you build your own project, please don't forget to post it on Instagram and tag us so we can give it a like, repost it, and show it to other people. If you liked this project, please hit the like button. I'll see you in the next video, which will be the third in this series about the summer project. And I'm sure you definitely won't want to miss this final video, the last installment of the series. I'm holding myself back from talking about what it is, but I have to keep it a surprise. So, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out and don't miss the notification. Because you're going to want to see this project. It turned out really cool, really awesome. Alright? Don't forget, before you do your shopping on the marketplaces, stop by the Inventor's garage and check out our links. By using our links, you generate a small commission and help support the channel so we can keep doing our work. I'll see you in the next video, and as always, never forget, let's keep inventing.